First episode was recorded on Wednesday the 23rd of February, and that was the day after the Christchurch earthquake, magnitude 6.3, and we'd all done rehearsals and talked about how we were going to do our very first podcast. We were all a bit nervous and everything else, and then all of a sudden we didn't know whether Tristan would be able to make it or not, and of course luckily he did. But that was a very special inaugural podcast, obviously, to get us all together.
Yeah, well, certainly it was great from my perspective, sort of having spent the last, the day before running around trying to find, friends and family and make sure that they were all right and all that kind of stuff, then to be able to sort of, reach out to, friends and family overseas, I guess, as part of the service management family. It was actually a really good thing to take my mind off it. And I think back to that podcast, it was so great. It was, to use your word, Simone, reinvigorating.
There's an awful lot of reinvigorating going along around here.
Well, you can only get actually invigorated so much.
Well, I think we all thought from the first one, what's Chris Dancy got us in for?
Yeah. I wasn't blaming Chris at that stage, I was blaming you.
Yeah, because I named you guys.
I don't think we did realise what was going on initially. And, to start off with something like the earthquake, it was our very first one, yet we're saying the show must go on. And, being service management, we're into crisis management, we do that kind of thing. I think the other thing was, interestingly, Tristan, for you, it gave some kind of routine or sense of normality, I guess. For me, I think it was an incredible opportunity to really explore the amazing people and in this profession and the sort of light that was amazing that came out of all of that.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned I think it was last month I mentioned about what's happening in Christchurch now, but so I don't want to sort of overdo it, but there's some amazing work going on down there. People are working still, shoulder to shoulder in temporary accommodation. They've knocked 700 of the 1,200 buildings they're going to knock down in the CBD, and they're talking about, I think, the first hotels in the CBD is going to be open again in March. So over a year after it, and I saw some photos again today of what it's looking like in there, and they're working in really harsh conditions, but they're still doing it, and there's a really good positive feeling down there. I think you mentioned the other night, I think it was you, Simone, who said you knew some people who had decided to stay there, or it might have been Andrew. It was one of you mentioned about somebody sold their house in Sydney to come back to Christchurch.
Yeah, that was me. Yeah, Sean and Terry. Yeah, they've flown over and sold their unit